સાહિત્યકાર કઈ રીતે જીલે છે. આપણા પ્રથમ વક્તા દિલીપ બારડ છે. હમણાં તમે એમનો સ્ક્રીન જોયો મજાનો. દિલીપભાઈ બહુ ઉત્સાહી આપણા અંગ્રેજીના અધ્યક્ષ MK ભાવનગર યુનિવર્સિટીના નવલકથાકારો ઉપર એમનું કામ છે, અધ્યક્ષ છે. મોક જે એક યોજના છે આપણી ઓનલાઈન ડિજિટલ ટીચિંગ, એમાં એમના ઘણા બધા કાર્યક્રમો છે. વિશ્વભરની યુનિવર્સિટીઓમાં એમણે કાર્યક્રમો એના માટે તૈયાર કર્યા છે. ઓઈઓ, પેનેસિલિયમ, મેલબોર્ન, હાર્વર્ડ, લંડન, ઓરેગોન. એટલે જે નવા માણસો આપણી સાથે, રાકેશ દેસાઈ કે દિલીપ બારડ, દિગેશભાઈની આપણી જે પરંપરા હતી કે અંગ્રેજીના મિત્રો આપણી સાથે જોડાય. મેં એમને જ્યારે આપણા સિતાંશુભાઈ જેમાં સક્રિય છે તે પલ્લુભાઈ પારેખ જે આપણી સંસ્થા છે વડોદરામાં, એમાં એમને આવતા જતા જોયા છે. અને એ જ્યારથી કાર્યરત થયા છે ત્યારથી હું જોતો હતો, તો મને હતું કે પરિષદને એ ક્યારેક લાભાન્વિત કરે. તો દિલીપભાઈ, તમે તો આખો પેન્ડેમિક એન્ડ લિટરેચર સેમિનાર કર્યો છે. એ સેમિનાર પણ યુટ્યુબ ઉપર છે અને આપ ખૂબ જ કાર્યરત છો, મને ખબર છે. અને ઉત્સાહી એક યુવા અધ્યાપક છે. પરિષદને આપની પાસેથી ખૂબ અપેક્ષા છે. આપ અમારી સાથે જોડાયા છો. હું આપને તમારું વક્તવ્ય શરૂ કરવા માટે વિનંતી કરું છું.
નમસ્કાર ભરતભાઈ, સિતાંશુભાઈ, આપને પણ ખૂબ ખૂબ નમસ્કાર. નરેશભાઈ અને અન્ય વક્તાઓ મિત્રો, ખૂબ આભાર ગુજરાત સાહિત્ય પરિષદ કે એમણે એક તક આપી આપની સાથે વિચારોની થોડી આપલે કરવા માટે. પણ જ્યારે અમે એક નેશનલ વેબિનાર એપિડેમિક એન્ડ લિટરેચર ઉપર બરાબર લોકડાઉનના સમયમાં કરેલો, ત્યારે ખૂબ જ ઉત્સાહપૂર્વક અનેક અધ્યાપકો પૂરા ભારતમાંથી, કાશ્મીરથી લઈ ભાષાથી લઈ અને ગ્લોબલ લેવલ સુધી કઈ રીતે મહામારી, પેન્ડેમિક્સ, અલગ અલગ પ્રકારની એમને સાહિત્ય સાથે શું કર્યું છે, કઈ રીતે એને જોયું છે, એ જોવા મળેલું. ઘણું બધું વાંચવામાં પણ આવેલું. પણ હજી એક આ જે વિચાર છે એપિડેમિક્સ એન્ડ લિટરેચર ઓર એપિડેમિયા એન્ડ લિટરેચર, અને એક વૈશ્વિક રીતે જોઈએ તો હજી ઘણું મંથન માગી લે છે. આ વસ્તુ હજી થોડી નવી લાગે છે. એ હતું જ પહેલા પણ આપણે એ રીતે જોતા નહોતા. આ બધી જ મહામારીઓ વર્ષોથી આપણી સાથે રહેલી છે. સાહિત્યકારો ત્યારે પણ લખતા હતા, પણ કોઈ રીતે આપણે આ ભૂલી જતા હતા કે ભૂલાવી દેવામાં આવતું હતું. ઇતિહાસકારો બહુ એની ઉપર નજર નહોતા ફેંકતા. અને એટલે આપણે જયારે સાહિત્ય ભણાવતા ત્યારે મહામારી અને સાહિત્ય ઉપર સંશોધન કરવું, એનું કોઈ એક પેપર રાખવું, એ રીતે કાવ્યોને વાંચવા, એ થતું નહોતું. મારા ધ્યાનમાં તો નથી આવતું કે એ ક્યાંય આપણે એક જે રીતે કોલોનિયાલિઝમ છે, જેન્ડર છે, રેસ છે, આ બધી મહામારીઓ જ અલગ અલગ પ્રકારની, આ બધા વાયરલ ઇન્ફેક્શન્સ જ છે. એ વાયરલ ઇન્ફેક્શન્સ ઉપર આપણે ખૂબ વાતો કરતા, પણ મહામારી એક્ઝેક્ટલી મેટાફર વગરની હકીકતની મહામારી, મેડિકલ મહામારી, હેલ્થની મહામારી, એના ઉપર આપણે બહુ વાંચતા નહોતા. એટલે એક સરસ તક ઊભી થઈ આ કોરોના સમયમાં કે આપણે એ રીતે સાહિત્યને જોતા જઈએ અને એ રીતે હવે લેખનમાં પણ આવતું જાય છે. મારી જે વાત કરવી છે એમાં મારે 4-5 મુદ્દા જે લેવા છે આજે, અને બહુ ઝડપથી એક નજર ફેંકવા માંગુ છું. કે પહેલું તો એક કેનન, જે આપણે મને જે ટોપિક આપ્યો કે વૈશ્વિક સાહિત્યના સંદર્ભે, અને એની સાથે બીજા બે પણ મુદ્દા છે કે ભારતીય સાહિત્ય અને ગુજરાતી સાહિત્ય. એટલે ઓટોમેટિકલી કેટેગરીઝ બની જાય છે. કેટેગરી આપણે જો કે સાહિત્ય એટલે કેટેગરીઓ તોડવી, પણ વિવેચન એટલે પાછું કેટેગરીઓમાં જોવું. એ બંને વસ્તુઓ છે. એક પેરાડોક્સ છે કે સાહિત્ય હંમેશા કેટેગરીઓ તોડવા માટે હોય, તો વિવેચન કરવા બેસીએ ત્યારે ફરી પાછા આપણે ક્યાંક એને બાંધીએ જેથી એને જોઈ શકાય. જેમ ડેરિડા કહે કે કોઈ પણ વસ્તુને ડિફાઇન કરવી અશક્ય છે, પણ એને ડિફરન્શિએટ આપણે કરતા હોય છે. તો ડિફરન્શિએટ આપણે કરીએ એટલે આપણે એક જગ્યા ઉપર સ્પષ્ટ થાય કે હું અહીંથી બોલું છું, હું અહીંથી જોઉં છું. તો એ રીતે વૈશ્વિક ભારતીય અને ગુજરાતી, મારે વૈશ્વિક સાહિત્ય. તો વૈશ્વિક એટલે હું વિચારતો હતો કે વર્લ્ડ લિટરેચર કહું કે ગ્લોબલ લિટરેચર કહું. વર્લ્ડ કે ગ્લોબલ, કે કઈ સાહિત્ય એના માટે કયો શબ્દ યોગ્ય લાગે. અને એક સરસ ડિબેટ છે આ વસ્તુ ઉપર પણ, એક સરસ, અને એમાં ડુવાલારુ ઓનાએ એક સરસ આર્ટિકલ પર નાનકડો લખ્યો છે, ઇન સર્ચ ઓફ અ ડેફિનેશન ઓફ અ ગ્લોબલ લિટરેચર. અને એ કોની સામે ડેફિનેશન કરવી છે, કોની સામે ડિફરન્શિએટ કરવું છે? વર્લ્ડ લિટરેચર સામે. સો દેર આર વેરી ઇન્ટરેસ્ટિંગ રેફરન્સીસ. થોડું અંગ્રેજીમાં વાંચીશ, થોડું હિન્દી અને ગુજરાતી ત્રણેય મિશ્ર ભાષા સાથે થોડી વાત કરતો જઈશ. એટલે પેલું કેનનની વાત, કે વૈશ્વિક એટલે વર્લ્ડ કે ગ્લોબલ. અને what I want to see here, in an insightful essay that addresses the changes and challenges brought about by globalization, Sighild Bogumil draws the reader's attention towards the potential of the new media. Since the understanding of textuality was radically transformed by the internet, the hypertext, and more recently by the idea of an open access literary culture, Bogumil pleads in favor of a broad meaning of global literature. On the one hand, it means the desire to open literature to the other cultural practices in such a manner that literature would figure as one among them, and on the other hand, it means the claim to make account of all kind of texts, in the generic as well as in the geographic sense. That is why the notion of world literature, dealing even in the most overt sense with books and aesthetics, does not fit and has to be replaced by the term global literature. It is more useful instead to show why global does not mean world. First and foremost, because global literature gestures towards its general readership, whereas the delineation of world literature is a matter or critical response and canon formation. The notion of world literature is value-centered in its narrow sense. Now, world literature, the world wealth literature, Gate talked about it, Tagore talked about it, lots of, in comparative literature, we have lots of things about world literature and translation practices and comparative practices. But here, when we see in terms of global, it becomes still a narrow canon formation is found in world literature here. Very accurate in this theoretical proposal is Ian Bochum, who distinguishes between two uses of global literary studies. And he uses the word here that in terms of project and method. In terms of project and method, we need to approach to global literary studies. I quote him, by project, I mean the appeal to reconfigure literary study as the study of something called global literature. That is the project of taking it. By method, I mean the global spread of particular ways of studying, global spread and a particular ways of studying something called literature. Now, in other words, literary globalization would mean that a new audience is being formed, one prepared to read beyond national literary traditions and gradually rework its immediate or larger social contexts through its literary representations. Now, why do I refer to this canon formation? Why I'm making this stance clear is because I want to see I want to discuss the examples that goes beyond literature, means pure literature. If I want to make a category of the word pure literature, but even the pure or Shuddh itself is very problematic categories. But still, if I want to make that, then I would say that literature in the time of pandemic, a global perspective is what I would like to say when the word goes Vaishvik rather than world literature. And in illustrations, I would like to take not many, but a kind of a passing reference, not only to literature, but to documentaries, reports, films, popular cinema, critical responses that is given to the literature, and even media also. So I will make a passing reference to all this thing, keeping that this is what we call global literature. New audience which is reading, which is watching Netflix documentaries or watching Netflix programs. From there to the critical responses that we are giving on online platforms and social media and media influencer, how all this thing plays a very vital role in studying global perspectives there. I would like to start with this documentaries, a few documentaries which gave us some idea of looking at the pandemic. Yeah. So the very first one, which was much talked about, was this TED talk by Bill Gates. And then there were lots of conspiracy theories around this, that because this was given in 2015, 5 years back. And then it seems like this was, well, Bill Gates was knowing everything. It seems like Bill Gates was knowing everything. That is what many YouTubers, many social media influencers, they made a conspiracy theory out of it, that, well, the people have their stake in pharmaceutical companies and lots of money is going to made. The arguments may be valid on the argument of anti-capitalist theory that we try to read at the world, but still this was a very interesting documentary which we studied a lot. We interpreted it a lot, negatively, positively, whatever way we want to do it, but it has its own influence when we look at the things there. In November 2019, just when this pandemic is rising, October, November, at that time, Netflix has streamed on internet platform this series known as Explained. And then there was one episode. Again, Bill Gates was there in that episode. And he was making some very interesting remark. The screenshot given here speaks that the economy will shut down. Well, in January 2020 or February, nobody ever thought that, well, economy of the world will come to a standstill. But that was already foretold by Bill Gates, and this documentary Explained 2019. We can't miss out all these kinds of utterances which were happening in forms of documentaries, not a pure literature, but still something that was very significant in that aspect. Very soon, Netflix released another very interesting documentary, a docudrama kind of a thing in January 2020, and that was known as Pandemic. And in this series, they were doing very interesting work. They were moving in globe. Well, there was India was there was Africa was there, America was there, China was there, lots of those spaces and what is happening there so far as pandemic is concerned. We already were aware about swine flu, about Ebola, and we were warned by scientists and other people who were involved with pharmaceutical companies, including Bill Gates kind of people who are like a philanthropist or in the name of social service, that they were airing their views in that way. And and this pandemic series was trying to say that how are we ready for the next pandemic? Well, pandemic was just there knocking at the door, and then this was telling that someday it may happen, but never we thought that it will be so early that we are going to see that. And this series was talking about very interesting thing about Africa, India, America. And what we came to know here is that there are socio-cultural religious cocoons, which are sometimes resisting us from answering in a proper way towards pandemic. For example, in Africa, when Ebola virus was widespread and the people from WHO were going there for vaccination and other thing, the people said that, no, we don't want to do this. Our God is going to save us. Our God, our goddesses are going to save us. This is, if it is a punishment from a God known as nature, we will accept that punishment, but will not take this medicines. It was very tough for the volunteers of WHO to convince the people that, well, this is a virus, and if you don't take this, it will spread like anything, and the human beings will wiped off. And we have seen that happening during the days of plague. We have seen that half of the Europe was wiped off many a times, and in 1918, just after First World War, 5% of the population was killed or died because of the Spanish flu there. So well, it was tough because the African people. In India, there were gender problem. The case study in India was taken of Jaipur, Savai Mansingh Government Hospital, and the swine flu, and how poor women are suffering from that, and how doctors are struggling for that, and how it can be overcome. That the crisis to overpopulated government hospitals and scarcity of facilities in that, how doctors have to struggle for something like swine flu. America had a terrible problem also. It was not that America is very like advanced country and those things, but what we have seen there, that in America, Oregon state example was given there, and many people are anti-vaccine there. And they run a campaign that, well, whether we want to vaccinate our child or not, that is our right. That is our right. We don't want to, then government cannot force us to do. And because of that, every year in America, thousands of people die of normal flu, normal influenza. The death rates are very high in America every year because of influenza, because they don't take normal vaccinations. Where in India, it is very normal that people do take various kinds of vaccinations without any resistance. Now, this can be seen in either way. The temperament of resistance, the temperament of being liberal is more in the air of America than in countries like China or we can say India also. So, but this documentary is very interesting to see in a global perspective, that what is our response to the pandemic and how we try to look at these things there. There was another interesting example that came. It was from WHO documents, reports. That's like, after documentaries, if we see reports, then while looking through many of the reports, this report was titled as Globalization and Infectious Diseases, Social, Economic and Behavioral Research. And this was published around 2018, I think, 2018 or 2014. This research was published by WHO. And see, alarmingly, what is important to see here is that they were writing there in this report that what we have to see is that what is going to happen to developing world, developing countries, poor countries, when this kind of pandemic will spread. So they were worried about the third world countries. They were worried about poor countries, including India, which is overpopulated, China, which has very like a habit of food habits and a kind of a thing that comes from China, or Africa, the poverty and other things. So they were worried about this world. Now, alarmingly, what has happened is that it is not this third world, but it is the first world which is affected a lot. It is America, and it was not ever seen that America can be, or with such a kind of a healthcare services, America can be so affected, or European countries can be so affected. Now, that is very interesting to see that how this colonial mindset operates here. When you write reports like WHO, UNICEF, or United Nations, where they are ruled by and large, the developed countries, and so their report writing, their questioning the very idea of pandemics is so much Eurocentric, again, we can say, or first world centric, that they were seeing the thing that it will be problematic to the other world. But actually, when it happened, now we see that, well, it was very harmful to that world, which was reading the other world. That was also very interesting to see in this. From this, if we move on to some popular cinema, then two examples I would like to give, and that was Contagion film, which was much talked about, because this also was 2011 film, and as if exactly what was shown in the film was happening in real world in 2020, exactly as if we are living 2011. It was so near to that world that we are facing. So people were very much surprised to see that, are these people knowing everything or what? Are there things which some people are already aware about, including this kind of filmmakers or World Bank or United Nations or philanthropists, very rich philanthropists who are also having a market share in pharmaceutical companies? Are they all aware about everything or not? Conspiracy theory. Yeah? But the big question that obviously comes with those things there. Contagion and Virus. Virus was a Malayali film, and Kerala had faced this virus earlier also in 18. So this film was about the 2018 virus and how they controlled the virus there. So what we see in this popular delineation of a pandemic is that normally there is a kind of a structure of narrative that is emerging, a structure of narrative that is emerging here. It has a similar pattern, like suddenly people start dying. Suddenly people start dying, and many people start falling ill also. Hospitals are filling with some kind of curious disease. People don't know what it is. Deadly virus is the cause that we suddenly come to know. Political authorities need to be informed, and it is a tough task to convince because political people have their own agendas to run around everything. And then the tough decision is taken, is lock down everything there, and then hunt for patient zero. Hunt for patient zero. Who is patient zero? How to hunt that down, and then how to find the chain of infections, and then the cause of infections. This is the normal narrative that we see, that perhaps the pandemic literature in a larger narrative, like in cinema or a novel, may be emerging in time to come. But these films were trying to have this narrative pattern here. Zoonotic disease, transmission from animal. Here it was bat. In both the films it was bat that was the cause of the thing, but the reasons were different. पर दोनों के कारण अलग थे, और ये कारण जो है काफी देखने वाली चीज है इसमें. पैंडेमिक और सिनेमा, पॉपुलर सिनेमा जब देखे तो एक स्ट्रक्चर बहुत कॉमन है नरेशन का, उसका कोज भी कॉमन है, कमिंग फ्रॉम द बैट, बट the reasons that are given, the explanations which are given, which are very interesting. Contagion tries to say that because of deforestation, this animals, these birds, they are not having a space in the forest, so they are coming to the urban spaces, and they already are having lots of viruses in their body, and that's how they are spreading the virus. That is their understanding. Contagion, deforestation is the reason. Whereas in virus it was different thing, that there was the patient zero who is just going to a forest and found a baby bat lying on the road, injured, lying on the road, and out of sympathy for animal, out of love for animal, he picks up that bat and puts it on a tree, and he got infected, and then he got. Now this is very interesting to observe. Contagion is a Hollywood film, virus is a Malayali film, an Indian film, and how they look at human contact with nature. One is that idea of deforestation, which also is equally true, and the other idea is that even if you love nature, even if you care for the nature, well, nature is indifferent. कुदरत को वैसे कोई ऐसी पड़ी नहीं है कि आप उसको प्रेम करो तो वो आपको प्रेम ही करेगा. कुदरत, आप उसको प्रेम करो तो कुदरत आपको प्रेम करेगा, वो हम कह नहीं सकते हैं. So this is very interesting, but it also gives an idea about ecosophy. Both the films also gives us an idea of ecosophy, that is ecology and philosophy. We need to read this ecology and philosophy. Felix Guattari is a psychotherapist and philologist who gave this word. And Felix Guattari and Arne Naess, they are responsible for this word. They somewhere coined the word, and they talked about this word ecosophy. That becomes very interesting to observe in this literatures here. Coming down to pure literature, if we see, and few examples if we take, then what happens today is fine. आज किस प्रकार का साहित्य बन रहा है वो तो बात अच्छी है, वो देखनी भी चाहिए, पर जो साहित्य पुराना था उसको देखने का तरीका भी हम बदल रहे हैं, वो भी इंटरेस्टिंग है. क्योंकि पास्ट का जो लिटरेचर था वो आज प्रेजेंट में हमें एक नई दृष्टि मिली. पैंडेमिक एक हमें नई दृष्टि देता है, एक विवेचन करने का, और अब हम पास्ट के साहित्य को उस हिसाब से भी देखते हैं. तो इडिपस, सोफोक्लिस का ये ग्रीक नाटक जो था, वो वहां पर भी प्लेग था, people were suffering, and they told to the king. So Sophocles' Oedipus is an excellent example of the fusion of myth and literature. Sophocles produced a great play, but the plot of Oedipus was not his invention. It was a well-known mythic narrative long before he immortalized it as tragic drama. Both the myth and the play contain a number of familiar archetypes, as a brief summary of the plot indicates. Even in the bare summary, we may discern at least two archetypal motifs in this: the Oedipus as a hero, is a king, he is a hero who answers Sphinx questions, and then he becomes a ruler, and then people want to know the answer of plague, and he takes that responsibility that, well, I will solve your problem, why there is a plague, and whoever is the person, I will pin out his eyes, मैं उसकी आंखें नोच लूंगा और उसको देश से निकाल दूंगा। जब उसे ये पता चलता है कि वो खुद है, तो वो खुद की आंखें नोच लेता है। वो जब उनको ये पता चलता है कि वो खुद ही है, वो जिसके पाप की वजह से पूरा देश बर्बरता सहन कर रहा है, कुदरती बर्बरता सहन कर रहा है, तो उसने अपने आप को भी सजा दी। ये मेटाफर काफी इंटरेस्टिंग आज के लिए है, क्योंकि वी आर सीइंग दैट द रूलर्स ऑफ टुडेज डेमोक्रेसीज are personalities of tremendous questions, whether it is any country, if it become very powerful countries, but the leadership of those countries are equally questionable, where reading Oedipus becomes very interesting. At the same time, see, here he says that people of Thebes के लोगों ने राजा को ये कहा कि इतनी बुरी तरह से कुदरत हमसे कुछ बदला ले रहा है, रिवेंज ले रहा है, मेडिवल थॉट है, इसलिए ये इस तरह से ये सोचते हैं कि तो इसका मतलब कि किसी ने बड़ा महापाप किया है, किसी ने महापाप किया है। आपकी जवाबदारी है कि उस महापापी को ढूंढो और सजा दो, तभी कुदरत हमसे जो रूठ चुकी है वो फिर हमारी ओर एक कृपा दृष्टि करेगी। How do we read this in the present context of coronavirus pandemic? Who is to be bleeded and banished? Who is to be bleeded and banished? Is there any particular king or political leaders, or is it all human beings? A collective scene of the people who chooses, elects their kings, because this is democracy and we all are electing our leaders. Is it a collective scene now? Oedipus was one who answered Sphinx and became a ruler, but well, today it is everybody who is there. So is it a collective sin of the people who choose and elect their king? Are these motifs recurring the recent times films and literature and epidemic? And how do we see this narrative in context of Oedipus? That becomes very, very interesting to read also with the new context. Decameron, also Giovanni Boccaccio's Decameron, again 14th century, 14वीं सदी की ये किताब अचानक इस तरह से याद आती, क्योंकि जब हम उसको पढ़ते थे तो ये कहते बहुत अच्छी कहानियां, it's a beautiful stories, collection of stories, but then suddenly we realize there is a frame of a story, there is a frame, और उसकी जो frame है वो बहुत interesting है। वो कुछ इस तरह से है कि कुछ अमीरजादे 10 लोग शहर में पेंडेमिक आया है, प्लेग आया है, तो ये 10 लोग जो अमीर है, इसमें 7 विमेन और 3 पुरुष, वो वहां से निकल जाते हैं और जंगल में एक विला है, उस विला में ठहरते, वो अपने आप को आइसोलेट कर लेते हैं, अपने आप को क्वारंटाइन कर लेते हैं, और फिर वहां क्वारंटाइन होना है, आइसोलेट होना है, तो क्या करे, तो चलो कहानी कहते हैं, और फिर वो कहानी एक दूसरे को कहते हैं। जो स्टोरीज आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बट दिस फ्रेम today, what is important in reading this is the frame of the story, the frame in which it was told. And what we get to read from this, which is very significantly true even today, is this. First is rich people, usko hum suvidhajan keh sakte hain. Suvidhajan escapes into their luxurious homes while the abandoned common lot, jise hum duvidhajan keh sakte hain, duvidhajan face the common destiny, that of disease, hunger and death. किसके कर्म और किसको सजा, जैसे भरत भाई ने बताया था शुरुआत में कि जो पासपोर्ट की सजा राशन कार्ड वाले भुगत रहे, पासपोर्ट की सजा राशन कार्ड वाले भुगत रहे, तो किसका कर्म किसकी सजा। The utopian desire of human beings to rebuild together a better, more ethical and harmoniously natural way of life out of the ruins of old world. Curative powers of stories, ये भी हमें सीखता है कि curative powers of stories, and we have told stories to each other a lot in an online mode. We had gatherings of poetry, mushaira, storytelling, drama performances also online. The curative power during the pandemic, that is what even Decameron reminds us. And importance of connection with the people, crucial roles of social networks, family, friends, relatives, neighbors, when we are socially isolated. That all becomes very important when we read Decameron with today's issues there. We also remember works like Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. Now, this is the work which reminds that there were lots of literature where pandemic was just having a passing remark. Like for example, if I want to give pain and agony to one character, मैं किसी एक पात्र को दुखी करना तो कैसे दुखी करूं कि चलो उनकी माता को मार देता हूं, उनके पिता को मार देता हूं, उनके कोई चहेते लोग हैं जिसको मार, ताकि ये पात्र बेबस हो जाए, ये अचानक सड़क पे आ जाए, गरीब हो जाए अचानक, वो मेरा प्लॉट में लिख रहा हूं। तो कैसे मरेंगे वो लोग मरेंगे कैसे, अकस्मात होगा। तो जेन आयर की कहानी में वो प्लेग है, बिकॉज ऑफ प्लेग द पीपल आर डाइंग। नाउ ये भी है कि हमने कभी ये पढ़ा नहीं, ये प्रश्न ये था महत्व का कि जेन आयर पढ़ा होगा हमने, ये साहित्य पढ़े होंगे इसलिए, लेकिन ये बहुत बार हम देखते नहीं थे कि लोग मरते किस कारण से। और अब हम देखते हैं कि चलो प्लेग से, पैंडेमिक से, महामारी से लोग कैसे मर रहे, तो किस तरह से साहित्यकारों ने इस चीज को लिया तो था, लेकिन शायद विवेचन या इतिहासकार ने उसको उस तरीके से देखने से शायद मना कर दिया होगा, या उनको कोई रुचि नहीं रही होगी। ये नई रुचि साहित्य और पैंडेमिक को देखने की अब हमारे अंदर जागृत हो रही है। 20वीं सदी में आए तो द प्लेग, एल्बर कैमू के इसके बारे में कुछ कहना जरूरत नहीं, क्योंकि बहुत बातें हो चुकी है। ये किताब, एल्बर कैमू की किताब द प्लेग, उसको हम एक सेमिनल वर्क कर सकते हैं, एक आर्कीटाइप मॉडल भी ले सकते हैं इसको, के the way Albert Camus is looking at plague and the rats and everything is very interesting, very interesting, because उनका जो मेटाफर था उसके अंदर वो ये था कि वो नाजी को प्लेग के माध्यम से देख रहे थे, नाजी का जो स्प्रेड था, और फिर how people react to Nazi, for example. So how religious people will react. Religious people will be with the power, even if the power is atrocious. सत्ताधारी पक्ष या व्यक्ति अगर आम जनता पर बहुत अन्याय करे, फिर भी शायद धर्म उनके साथ खड़ा रह जाएगा। तो वही एल्बर कैमू की कहानी भी कहती है। और उनका जो हीरो है डॉक्टर बर्नार्ड is an example of resistance. Is an example of resistance. He is resisting not only the spread of the plague, but even the spread of this atrocious governments. Atrocious governments के सामने भी वो डॉक्टर खड़ा रहता है, एल्बर कैमू एक साहित्यकार खड़ा रह जाता है। इस तरह से ये साहित्य आज के लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। जो रिमार्क्स भरत भाई ने इनिशियली किए थे कि हाउ वी सी टुडे दैट किस तरह से सभी सरकारें कितने सारे रूल्स इंपोज करती जा रही है, तो कहाँ है रेजिस्टेंस, कैसे लोग रेजिस्ट कर पाएंगे इन चीज को। साहित्यकार, क्या आज का एल्बर कैमू, आज की प्लेग कहानी ये बात कह पाएगी या नहीं, ये बहुत महत्व की बात यहाँ से हमें याद आती है। और बाकी जो अच्छी किताबें बनी जो कि जोस सैरामेगो की ब्लाइंडनेस और मैरियो बेलेटिन की ब्यूटी सलून भी आकर्षक लगी जब देखते थे साहित्य को। तो ब्लाइंडनेस नवल कथा में जो एपिडेमिक है वो लोगों को व्हाइट ब्लाइंडनेस होते तो काला हो जाता है सब, वी कांट सी ब्लैकनेस, पर यहाँ पर व्हाइट ब्लाइंडनेस का भोग बना रही। यहाँ का जो वायरस था वो ऐसा था कि जो इन्फेक्टेड लोग है वो उसके अंधकार जो है एकदम चकाचौंध भरा, सफेदी चकाचौंध, उसका ही अंधकार में वो डूब जाते हैं। द ब्यूटी सलून में प्लेग जैसे एपिडेमिक में लोग मरने के लिए इस सलून में आ रहे हैं। जो सलून लोगों को सुंदर बनाता था वो अब आइसोलेशन सेंटर में तब्दील हो गया है और लोग मृत्यु का इंतजार करते हैं। व्हाइट ब्लाइंडनेस और ब्यूटी सलून दोनों ही रूपक के तौर पे भी एस्थेटिकली ब्यूटीफुल है और बात कर रहे हैं महामारी की, मृत्यु की, भयंकर मृत्यु की। प्लेग में ब्यूटी सलून स्पेनिश में और ब्लाइंडनेस अंग्रेजी भाषांतर दोनों का उपलब्ध है। दोनों स्पेनिश भाषा और पोर्टुगीज में लिखी गई है दोनों कहानियां। एपिडेमिक साहित्य महामारी के फलक पर अपने दौर की जो बातें, चर्चा विमर्श, वाद विवाद बयां है, वो तुलनात्मक रूप से पढ़ने जैसे यहाँ पर हम देख रहे हैं इसके। तो ये जो व्हाइट ब्लाइंडनेस को क्या कि आज जैसे किसी एक भाषा की जो चकाचौंध होती जा रही है, भाषा की चकाचौंध, और जो बड़े बोलने वाले लोग हैं, बड़े बोलने वाले जो लोग हैं, उनकी भाषा की चकाचौंध में बहुत सारे लोग अंधे होते जा रहे हैं। ये सिंबल काफी अच्छा है। तो ये जो वायरस है, रेटोरिसिटी ऑफ पॉलिटिकल स्पीचेस, जिस पर हमने हेरोल्ड पिंटर की नोबेल स्पीच 2005 में भी देखा था कि उसने कहा था कि किस तरह से द रेटोरिसिटी ऑफ पॉलिटिकल स्पीचेस वो लोगों को ब्लाइंड कर सकती है। वो जो व्हाइट ब्लाइंडनेस सफेदी की, चकाचौंध की अंधकार में जो पेंडेमिक स्प्रेड हो रहा है उसके सामने भी ये साहित्य हमें ये भी देखने के लिए मजबूर कर रहा है। और बहुत सारी अलग अलग प्रकार की चर्चाएं हमारे अंदर जो आज हो रही थी उसकी तरफ भी हम देख सकते हैं, जैसे मांसाहार या शाकाहार हो, पूंजीवाद या समाजवाद हो, वैज्ञानिक अभिगम हो या धार्मिक अभिगम हो, अमेरिका हो या चीन हो, पूंजीवादी हेल्थ केयर हो, साम्यवादी हेल्थ केयर हो जो क्यूबा और अमेरिका की बात करते हैं, व्यक्तिगत स्वतंत्रता और सामूहिक स्वास्थ्य, सामूहिक स्वास्थ्य और व्यक्तिगत स्वतंत्रता, इन सब की बातें भी ये याद दिलाता है। ये सब आज के मुद्दे आज हमारे सामने है, तो ये साहित्य हमें उसकी ओर देखने के लिए मजबूर भी करते हैं। कुछ नए जो प्रयोग हुए उसमें हम देखते हैं कि बहुत सारी ऐसे क्वारंटाइन फिक्शन भी बनी है सोशल मीडिया के माध्यम से या ई पब्लिकेशंस के माध्यम से, लेकिन इसमें इतनी गहराई नहीं थी। इस साहित्य जो आज बना, आज के लिए बना, जो गहराई हम इस ब्लाइंडनेस में या ब्यूटी सैलून में या प्लेग में या देखते हैं, उस प्रकार की गहराई, या इडिपस जैसा नाटक जो आज फिर से हमें याद दिलाता है, तो ये नहीं मिला था इसमें। तो ये शायद ऐसा है कि जो जल्दी साहित्य बन जाता है आज के लिए, उसमें गहराई लाना मुश्किल होती है। बहुत कुछ साहित्य अच्छा बन जाता है, गहराई से देख पाते हैं लोग, लेकिन इस प्रकार के साहित्य भी पब्लिश हुए, लेकिन जिसमें ज्यादातर एक सेंटिमेंटालिटी ज्यादा होती है, इमोशनलिटी बहुत ज्यादा, पैथोस होता है। मैं घर के सदस्यों के साथ रह रहा हूं, मुझे पता नहीं था मेरे घर के सदस्य इतने सुंदर है, इतने अच्छे हैं, ऐसी बालिस्ता भरी बातें भी लोग इसमें लिखते रहे थे। तो ये भी इस प्रकार का एक दौर भी आया। इसमें एक अच्छी बात, जो सबसे अच्छी नवल कथा अगर देखने को मिले तो ये एलिस नॉट नाम की नवल कथा है, ब्लेक बटलर की। ये भी पेंडेमिक से पहले लिखी गई है, पेंडेमिक से पहले बन चुकी है ये नवल कथा, लेकिन उसमें जो लिखा गया है वो काफी इंटरेस्टिंग है। तो लोग पढ़ रहे और कह रहे हैं, जैसे ब्रुक्स स्टेरिट नाम का एक अमेरिकन प्रोफेसर है, ब्रुक्स स्टेरिट, जो अपनी एक नई किताब लिख रहे हैं अभी और जल्दी ही पब्लिश होने वाली है। उस किताब का नाम है द हिस्ट्री ऑफ अमेरिका इन माई लाइफ टाइम, द हिस्ट्री ऑफ अमेरिका इन माई लाइफ टाइम। ये लेखक ब्रुक्स स्टेरिट, उसने बहुत अच्छा विवेचन इस नवल कथा का किया आज के संदर्भ में। ये नवल कथा 2020 की है, 2020 की है, लेकिन पब्लिश हो चुकी थी कोविड-19 महामारी से पहले, बिल्कुल उस समय जब महामारी अभी फैल रही थी। तो ये जब लिखी जा रही थी ब्लैक बटलर के द्वारा, तब महामारी नहीं होगी, लेकिन उसने जो पकड़ा उसके अंदर वो काफी महत्वपूर्ण रहा इसके लिए। तो मैं आई वुड लाइक टू रीड अ पैराग्राफ फ्रॉम व्हाट ब्लैक बटलर नॉवेल इज एंड व्हाट ब्रुक्स स्टेरिट इज राइटिंग अबाउट दिस। तो इस कहानी ऐसी है कि एलिस नॉट नाम की एक बुजुर्ग महिला है, एलिस नॉट नाम की बुजुर्ग और बहुत अमीर महिला है, बहुत अमीर है। उसके बहुत बड़ी जायदाद है। लिखा जाता है कि उसके पास इतनी जमीन है कि कभी उसने देखी भी नहीं है, उतनी सारी जमीन है, बहुत जायदाद। और उनके घर में उसके पेरेंट्स के द्वारा एक ऐसी थी कि आर्ट्स को खरीदा जाए, आर्ट को खरीदा जाए, कला को खरीदा जाए। तो बहुत बड़ी कलाकृतियां उसके घर में रहती थी। लेकिन एलिस नॉट, बुजुर्ग महिला, अपने घर में बंदियारे से घर में रह रही है, जैसे खुद को अपने क्वारंटाइन कर लिया है, अपने खुद का एक लॉकडाउन में अपनी इच्छा से वो रह रही है। वो उस तरह से उसका जीवन जा रहा है। उसको उस आर्ट में भी इतना रस नहीं है। उसको पता है कि ये बहुत महंगी कलाकृतियां है, बहुत महंगी, अब जो रुपयों की कलाकृतियां अपने दीवालों पर सजी है, लेकिन नहीं। अचानक नवल कथा शुरू होती है तो अचानक एक वीडियो वायरल होता है, सीधा वीडियो वायरल होता है। और ये वीडियो के इर्द गिर्द काफी बातें ब्लैक बटलर लिखते हैं, जो इस महामारी में हमने बहुत देखा, क्योंकि हमारा सब कुछ रूबरू होना वीडियो के माध्यम से ही हो गया था। अभी भी जो हो रहा है वो एक वीडियो है, वायरल वीडियो है। तो वो वीडियो वायरल क्या होता है कि कोई लोग हैं जो मुखौटा पहने हैं और उनके ही घर के अंदर है, और वहां पर वो बहुत महंगी कलाकृति थी, है बहुत महंगी कलाकृति। ये विमेन 3 नाम की कलाकृति विलियम डी कुनिंग के द्वारा, जो माना जाता है कि ये विश्व की 12 सबसे महंगी कलाकृति में उसका नंबर आता है। विश्व की 12 सबसे महंगी कलाकृति जो है उसके अंदर इस कलाकृति का नंबर आता है। ये कलाकृति वहां थी, तो उन लोगों ने इस कलाकृति को उतारा, उसका वीडियो शूट कर रहे, फिर उसको जला दिया, डिस्ट्रॉय कर दिया, और उस वीडियो को वायरल कर रहे हैं लोग। आर्ट इज बीइंग डिस्ट्रॉयड एंड दैट बिकम्स वायरल And then there is lots of media hype around that, lots of interviews keep on happening, television keeps on airing the thing, the way we have seen during the suicide case of Sushant Singh Rajput on television. The similar kind of drama is being enacted here. So Black Butler's new novel, Alice Not, was written well before the emergence of COVID-19, yet it resonates so strongly with life under lockdown that one would be forgiven for thinking otherwise. The narrative is filtered through the obsessive consciousness of the titular character, Alice Not, an aging heiress who hasn't left her house in years. Alice's basement vault is filled Aji, Bharatbhai, આપનો જ મેસેજ લાગે છે.
સમય
Okay, thank you. ચલો, I'm concluding. Yeah, okay. So this is Alice Not की एक नवल कथा. एक अच्छी काव्य जो मिला अभी इस समय पे देखने के लिए वो था साइमन अर्मिटेज का पोयम थी, छोटी सी, लॉकडाउन नाम की एक पोयम. साइमन अर्मिटेज जो है वो राजकवि है इंग्लैंड के. साइमन अर्मिटेज अभी के राजकवि है. तो उसने एक ये पोयम लिखी थी लॉकडाउन. महत्व की बात क्या है कि इस पोयम में वो मेघदूत का उल्लेख करते हैं. मेघदूत, तो ईस्ट एंड वेस्ट, वो एक बात करते हैं कि इंग्लैंड के एक छोटे से गांव में प्लेग आता है, फिर लोग कैसे करते हैं, और उनके सापेक्ष में वो रखते हैं कि एक पति को अपनी पत्नी से, एक प्रेमी को प्रेमिका से दूर किया जाता है, एक क्वारंटाइन किया जाता है राजा के द्वारा. तो फिर वो कैसे मेघ को अपना दूत बनाकर वो संदेश भेजते हैं. तो वो काफी इंटरेस्टिंग बात उसने लिखी कि कवि ये कल्पना करते कि मैं पहले स्वप्न में जाता हूं तो मैं देखता हूं एक प्रेमी प्रेमिका, उसका नाम है एमोट सिडल एंड रॉलन टॉर नाम की प्रेमिका है. वो ईएम नाम के छोटे से गांव, इंग्लैंड के गांव में रहते हैं. और फिर उस समय वो क्या करते हैं, उसकी बात वो करते हैं. फिर कहते हैं कि मैं फिर से सोने जा रहा हूं और फिर मैं एक दूसरा स्वप्न देखता हूं और ये देखता हूं एग्जाइल्ड यक्ष सेंडिंग अ वर्ड to his lost wife on a passing cloud. और फिर देखते हैं वो क्लाउड कैसे जाता है और सुंदरता, काफी अच्छी सुंदरता का वर्णन आर्मिटेज अपनी इस पोयम में करते हैं कि भारत के ऊपर से जब ये उत्तर की ओर ये बादल जा रहा है, तो बादल जो कुदरत को देखते जा रहा है, उस तरीके से वो एक काफी इंटरेस्टिंग साहित्य लॉकडाउन का देखने को मिला, जिसके पास एक मिथिकल टेक्निक थी, एक यूनिवर्सल अपील भी उसके अंदर देखने को हमें मिली थी. कंक्लूजन की ओर जाते हुए जल्दी से क्रिटिकल बुक्स जो लिखी गई इस समय पे, उसमें 2 किताबें काफी अच्छी लगी क्रिटिकल बुक्स. एक थी कॉन्टेजियस नाम की किताब, कल्चर्स, करियर्स एंड आउटब्रेक नैरेटिव, जिसमें जो है वो लेखिका वो HIV से लेके सभी प्रकार के पेंडेमिक में क्या होता है उसके ऊपर बात करते हैं. और काफी अच्छी किताब एक और नजर में आई, वो थी वायरल मॉडर्निज्म की. एलिजाबेथ ओटका ने ये लिखा और उसने पढ़ा कि मॉडर्निज्म जो था, T.S. एलियट, वर्जीनिया वुल्फ, उनके साथ उन लोगों ने 1918 के स्पेनिश फ्लू में क्या किया था, जो बहुत बार हम पढ़ नहीं रहे हैं. हम इसको ऑलमोस्ट हमने उसको नकार दिया था कि 1918, क्योंकि फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर याद था, सेकंड याद था, लेकिन स्पेनिश फ्लू ऑलमोस्ट एब्सेंट था हमारे मॉडर्निस्ट लिटरेचर में से. तो इस किताब में एलिजाबेथ ओटका हमें फिर से वहां वो देखने के लिए ले जा रही है. और इंफोडेमिक भी बहुत हुआ इस समय पे. इंफोडेमिक मीडिया का जो रोल था और सोशल मीडिया इन्फ्लुएंसर्स जो थे, वो लोग जिस तरह से एक फैक्ट्री ऑफ कॉन्स्पिरेसी थियरीज चला रहे थे, ये भी एक ग्लोबल लिटरेचर में जब हम देखें तो ये पहलू भी काफी महत्व के बन जाते हैं कि ब्लॉग राइटर्स या सोशल मीडिया इन्फ्लुएंसर्स, उनका रोल भी आज के समय में कैसा रहा है. तो दिस वाज समथिंग दैट आई वांटेड टू से एंड एक्सप्रेस द व्यूज देयर. तो हम फाइनल रिमार्क्स में कह सकते हैं कि एक कैनन जो है ग्लोबल लिटरेचर की ओर देख सकते हैं. एक पोस्ट कॉलोनियलिज्म की आर्ग्यूमेंट जो थी रिपोर्ट्स में और मीडिया रिपोर्ट्स में, वो देख सकते हैं. इंफोडेमिक और कॉन्स्पिरेसी थियरीज को पढ़ना भी अनिवार्य हो जाता है. एक लॉकडाउन जो एक अर्ज टू बी वन, एक ग्लोबल सिटीजन बनने की फिर से एक अर्ज साइमन अर्मिटेज की काव्य से निकल के आती है, वो महत्व की है. एक एलिट और द अदर की जो एक द्वंद्व होता है, जो हमने गरीबों को जिस तरह से शहरों से निकलते देखा, वो भी एक महत्व की बात यहाँ देखते हैं। फुकोल्डियन पावर का जो डायनेमिक्स है, वो सत्ताएं किस तरह से इस महामारी का उपयोग करके हमें एक गिरफ्त में ले सकते हैं, उसके सामने हम आंखें खुली रखे। इकोसॉफी की बहुत जरूरियत है आज के समय में, इकोलॉजिकली देखने को। और आखिर में रिलीजियस कल्चरल ककून वर्सेस साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट, ये जो द्वंद्व है उसमें भी हम किस तरह से अपना उत्तर ढूंढ सके, ये हम एक ग्लोबल पर्सपेक्टिव से एक साहित्य और पेंडेमिक को देख सकते हैं। थैंक यू वेरी मच। थैंक यू।
Dilip bhai, that was simply fantastic, wonderfully performed. Very good. We are waiting for Bharat bhai to join us.
Yeah, okay, yeah.